through the gates of hell, as we make our way to heaven through the Nazi lines. Viva Victoria!
So, I don't like these long-form videos. However, the equity debate has become so widespread as to infect the minds of a family member of mine, and infect is certainly the correct term, because a person is not reasoned into concluding that equity is itself beneficial in all situations. They posted the picture here with little explanation, garnering tens of likes from people who form their opinions from personal experience rather than empirical evidence. I'm currently an academic, as those in my personal life will know, and I'm not studying a useless history degree or some form of social science, most of which is utter bollocks. I pride myself on doing a medical-related course with an evidence-based focus, and the literature surrounding the demographics is concrete within my clinical practice. As a result, I come not from a biased perspective, as my political compass results will demonstrate here. Oops, wrong test. I come from a neutral and evidence-based platform, and I hope to provide the adequate citations throughout. As some can agree that equity in general is kind of communistic in its philosophy.
God, those communists are amazing.
To conclude itself that equity is fairness in every situation ignores the strongest facets of being a human. This may work if every person was a carbon copy of one another, with only deficiencies that separate them rather than gained advantages. However, if you think it is reasonable to claim that neurosurgeons should operate on a system of equity instead of competence hierarchy, you are asking for trouble. Would you like a black surgeon with no experience or a white doctor with 15 years experience dealing with your father's brain aneurysm? Now, if you happen to be alt-right, reverse those demographics. I mean, it gives Simon, the unfortunate quadriplegic, the ability to pursue his dreams of winning the 100-metre dash against Usain Bolt. However, you'd first have to kill Usain Bolt, and then use free labour of another person to get him across the finish line. This is an extreme example, I know, however it succinctly highlights the many failings of equity. It also does not take into account effort and agency, especially in those who spend 80 hours a week working. The top earners per capita tend to be extremely physically fit, mentally stable, of Asian descent, and male. Now, the economic and social constructionists would argue that it has something to do with discrimination. This is not the case because a univariate analysis of the data is an insufficient methodology, and when you factor in most of the variables, you find it disappears. Using a multivariate analysis, you can see the table below as a contrast to this. Albeit it's fictitious, it does explain what I mean in a much better way than I could ever hope to attempt. The table itself is not comparing people in equal positions. It is performing a univariate analysis to make its conclusion. For example, you could make the argument that Asians make more than whites, therefore there is racist discrimination against whites. But that doesn't add up. The equity of the solution to this problem could potentially be one of three things. You either tax the higher earners and give it to the lower earners to gain equity and income for all citizens. You could force people who earn less to work more, or force people who earn more to work less. In each situation you can see a tyranny forming. Implementing a tax on Asians because they work harder and giving it to the rest of the population proportional to their earnings is racist discrimination, and could be the clipping of the wings of our hardest workers. So no, equity in economics is not necessarily fairness, it is necessarily the opposite. Now, I'm not some sort of radical capitalist. I do remain sceptical when discussing capitalism. The best quote that came to my mind when writing this was, "Capitalism is the exploitation of man by man, and socialism is the reversal of it, such that man exploits man." You see, all political structures are terrible. However, capitalism is the most effective that we have until something better comes along, and not anarchy, because humans work in hierarchies, and they are necessary for a society to function. And definitely not communism, because I don't fancy starving. While researching for this piece of writing, I found a photo of a family, a mother, a daughter, a son, and a father, selling human body parts for food. For obvious reasons, I cannot show that here. However, I wonder exactly to what degree of oppression somebody must live under to do that. The answer, of course, is simple: an oppression through equity. Radical equity. Given an equal playing field, some will starve. It's inevitable. However, humans are corruptible, and, well, if anybody gets into power in a communist system, it's inevitable that they'll be corrupted, and nobody is beyond it, because all humans can be, and some are, corrupt. You see, communism is an amazing mix of the reduced total wealth by the ruling class and the culling of millions. It astounds me that we still have open Marxists, Stalinists and Maoists on college campuses wearing the hammer and sickle while a swastika will have you arrested. Both are equally detestable. Well, equitably detestable, I guess. The reason why I'm taking this argument in terms of skepticism is because under communism, the end goal of equity, which has been defined in several studies, I'll leave a link to the biggest one that I know of, you will be sent to gulags where unimaginable horrors occurred if you merely questioned the state. And if you want to know more about this, I recommend reading the Gulag Archipelago by Aleksandr, Russian, or at least the abridged version anyway, where he discusses the forced labour camps prior to his exile. He won a Nobel Prize for his work back when it meant something, so you know it's good. And if anybody argues in favour of radical capitalism, I'd respond with the same nope, and say that current socio-capitalistic formulas that we use in the West work much better than socialism and radical capitalism, that can decay into communism and fascism respectively.
A Guterdomerong battle.
Now, if you'll excuse the dicking, I'm about to discuss a few of the common topics that are criticisms of this whole equity argument. 1. If you're not earning what you want, change career or work your way up the ladder. 2. Comparing jobs is like comparing stepladders and shoestrings. Who's to say what equal work is? 3. If you want to make more, stop taking time off. 4. If you don't want to get shot, don't commit crime. 5. If people are to be taxed based upon their demographics, to what degree should this be in effect? For example, should attractiveness be considered? Because people who are more attractive make more money on average. What about job choice, such as journalists or the nebulous people who work in finance, which includes receptionists and managers, by the way? That's basically it. I don't want to be too much of a dick and go into all of these arguments, because I could just gish gallop all day. Really, equity is a terrible idea, and anybody who justifies it is pseudo-communistic in their tendencies, or at least socialist, and both a backwards way of thinking. I think that's all I've got to say, really. So I'll love you and leave you with a final outro, I guess, of some description. Or I'll just continue rambling because it seems I'm all fucking good at in life. Have you seen the last episode of Dragon Ball Super? It's pretty good. Elliot Roger is the supreme gentleman or something. Oh, you need a porn license in the UK now. That's fun. What else happened? More stuff. Ghost released their new album. It's okay, I guess. What else? Alien Weaponry finally released their album. It was great. It was good. The songs that I haven't heard yet were subpar, though. The rest of them were really good. Kai Tangata is probably the best song on the album. What else is I don't this is going on rambly. Outro.
God, those communists are amazing.